Okay, YouTubers, this is the Angryprepper. So today's video, are the Chinese gearing up for war? We are watching a lot of things go on with China all over the world, globally that is, and it seems to be they could be gearing up for war or preparing for something else. So guys, as we are all paying attention to what's going on in China, I know that I've been paying attention as far as their aggressive maneuvers with their fighter jets and their naval division, if you will. They've been pulling off aggressive movements with the U.S. There was an admiral who stated that the Chinese could be gearing up to take Taiwan at any moment. Now, moment, guys, means next week, 2 years from now, because the timeline never, ever works out according to plan. But there was a warning from that general when it came to taking Taiwan by force. So, Admiral John Aquilino, he's the U.S. commander of the Indo-Pacific Fleet, right? I'm pretty sure I said that wrong. Anyway, he gave warning to the Chinese president that if any force is used to take Taiwan, they're going to pay for it in treasure and blood, or something to that effect. And I'm like, the hell does that even mean, treasure and blood? Never heard of that phrase before. But anyway, he sets this warning out, I think about a couple weeks ago, a week ago or so. We watched the dangerous maneuver with the fighter jets getting as close as 400 feet away from our fighter jets. And this was probably, again, maybe that was a couple weeks ago. But then a couple months ago, there was another close call, or rather not a close call, but a warning from the Chinese Air Force to the United States Air Force, or maybe Navy, telling them to stay out of their airspace. Keep in mind, the United States was nowhere near the airspace. They might have been 100, 200 miles away from the airspace, which I know when it comes to fighter jets, that gap can be closed pretty quickly. Nonetheless, it seems like a lot is gearing up. China is gearing up for something. They have a financial crisis on their hand. A lot of their shadow banks, if you will, are going under. Something like our small banks here that are starting to go under or being eyed at to go under. China has the same thing. China also has a giant real estate issue going on. Now, I know we have a real estate issue bubble about to pop here, but over there, they're going through it right now. They are essentially knocking down buildings that they built to put people in, but because of the economy is so bad in China, people are not moving. Now they're knocking these buildings down. So China has a lot going on, and some people seem to think that they're gearing up for war. I personally believe they're gearing up for a financial crisis. Keep in mind, if China goes through a financial crisis, guys, so does the rest of the world. Their financial woes doesn't just affect them. It affects everyone. Just like if we go through a depression or something, it affects the world, not just us. So there was an incident that I mentioned before with the U.S. naval ship and a Chinese naval ship, where the Chinese naval ship pulled a shit move, if you will, by cutting off the U.S. naval ship with 150 yards of room. Now, because the U.S. destroyer was probably traveling pretty fast, and so was the Chinese naval ship, once he cut in front of them, the Chinese naval ship cut in front of the U.S. destroyer, the Chinese naval ship, had the audacity to tell the U.S. destroyer to switch positions or switch headings because you're going to crash into us. Imagine, that's like cutting off somebody and going, he better not hit me, he better not hit me. You know, it's like, so it was the same thing. So that was done, I think, a week ago. Then you had two aerial incidents with the Chinese, one back in February, and then this one about a couple weeks ago. So again, guys, their aggression is getting out of control. Their attitude with having things belong to them, or only that they can do it, like they have this entitlement attitude. Sorry. And their entitlement attitude's out of control now, because they're like, well, we're going to do this, and if you guys do the same thing, we're going to attack you. Right? So they want to storm Taiwan with no incident. Warning the United States, by the way, that if we get involved, it's going to be, it's going to worsen our relationship. Our relationship is already worsened already. So I don't know what the Chinese are doing and why the Chinese government is thinking the way they're thinking. The military is acting irrational now. The Chinese government, or the Chinese government, rather, or politicians, they're making irrational comments. I'm like, did they fucking sniff too much glue? Did they take too many arm tickets? What's going on? Right? I mean, like, it sort of doesn't make sense, but it does make sense when you're looking to pick a fight with somebody you hate. Right? So when somebody you hate choose, you're like, this motherfucker, I want to smack him in the back of the head, right? Or if somebody walks the wrong way, like, why is that asshole walking that way? So when you hate somebody, you're always picking or trying to instigate a fight. And that's what the Chinese are doing. Keep in mind, the Chinese president told the Russian president, please don't use any nuclear weapons. But now they want to pick a fight with the United States. But the Chinese president also said that they don't want to go nuclear either. So don't know where this is going. It's clearly, it might not go nuclear, but some shit's going to happen. So you have the Chinese guys trying to insert themselves in the Arctic or the Antarctica. They're trying to insert themselves there. So apparently trying to insert themselves means that they're not able to do it, or that they are, but they're pulling out, whatever it is. But the United States government has been keeping tabs on why they keep trying to insert themselves there. Now, that's supposedly open land. Anybody can go there, but they are more curious as to why they're doing it recently. Then you have Chinese tourists, getting lost by a military base, saying that, oh, they're looking for the Northern Lights, and they're getting lost, and it seems to be Chinese that keep getting lost and ending up in front of this base. So now, there were reports that they were attacking the base or trying to sneak in. Not so. I think they're measuring the security of that base. It's why they keep getting lost, right? So again, as far as them trying to attack and all this other bullshit, that's not happening. But I think they're measuring up the security to see how they can take over this particular base. So it's something that they're clearly looking at. And interestingly enough, after the Chinese balloon that flew across the United States looked at a lot of military bases, this is one where they weren't able to gather intelligence on. And so they're probably using their people, if you will, to gather intelligence that way. There was also a call from the Chinese government, the Chinese president, rather, told his people to gather up food for up to a year. He did that about a week ago as well. So there's a lot of interesting shit going on with China, and now we're like, what's going on? Supposedly, there's a rumor going around where the Chinese government has also told its Chinese citizens that live in the United States and abroad to be ready for something. But I don't know what that something is. I couldn't get any clear information on it. But supposedly, they're being spoken to and they're being called to arms, if you will. So that's interesting as well. Again, you got financial problems. You got the president telling the people to gear up or get ready with food for a year. You got these aggressive movements with the Air Force and the Navy, right? You got spies getting lost. You got all this crazy shit going on. It's almost as if they're ready to do something, or they're distracting us with Taiwan. Now, they've been looking to make a move on Taiwan for decades now. It's only a matter of time. The more interesting question is, how are we going to respond to that? Keep in mind, look at this administration. Has no balls. They're letting illegals run rampant across the border. So you mean to tell me you're going to let that slide, but you're going to take up arms and fight for Taiwan, a country on the other side of the world? I don't see us doing it, but the admiral seems to think that we're going to respond in kind. So it should be a very interesting fight when it gets down to it. So the Chinese president also last week made mention of AI and how AI is getting dangerous and that AI needs to be handled and there needs to be rules and regulations in place for it. This is the Chinese president. And the Chinese president is saying this because they're losing control over the AI sector with their people. So, of course, an authoritarian government doesn't want to lose control. They're trying to figure out how they can pull back AI because they're worried that AI can also do what we think AI is going to do to us. Dismantle our entire infrastructure. They're worried about that as well. But they're worried about it from a different angle. From the article I read, they're more worried about it from their people having access to AI. So he's worried about that. And all of this, guys, was said last week. So again, the Chinese, they're throwing everything at us. And he seems to be worried about a lot of things. Not just one thing, not just the U.S. And they're also worried about the relations with Russia and that collapsing. I'm curious to find out more information on that. I thought that was interesting as well to hear about it anyway. So again, guys, a lot going on. China's up to no good as per usual. So we can only wait and see. Are we going to get attacked next week and glow in the dark? No. Could something happen in the near future? Yes. We have to wait and see, guys. We can't start looking at a YouTube channel and go, oh my God, and then flipping out. We're not bitches here. At least not on this channel. Other channels, you can be a bitch and carry on and fucking wear a beret or whatever the fuck it is and eat fucking, croissants. That's your deal? Fine. But here, we don't do that shit. We take the information in, we put it in the back of our heads, and then we evaluate the situation as it arises. All right, guys? Other than that, this is the Angry Prepper. Thank you for watching.